Good morning, student. Let us start with our new topic, change in demand. Student, as we all are familiar with demand, and in our previous chapter we study about demand. Okay, now demand for any commodity depends on several factors, as we all know that, like price, consumers income, taste and preference, price and availability of substitute, future expectations. So these are the variables, so these are the factors on which demand of a consumer is depend. So in this particular topic we divided all these factors into two parts. The first one is price of the commodity, and the second one is all factors other than price. Okay, two part, price of the commodity, and the second one is all factor other than price. Now these two now we shall discuss below two type of changes in demand. Okay, there are two type of changes take place in demand. One is movement along the demand curve, and the second one is shift in demand curve. These two type of changes occurs in the demand curve. Now the first one is movement. Whenever we talk about the movement in demand curve, it is because of change in price. Okay, the basic reason of movement in demand curve is change in price, which is also known as change in quantity demanded. Movement along the demand curve is also known as change in quantity demanded, and this is because of change in prices. And all the other factors like income, taste and preference, expectation remain constant. Okay, whenever we study about movement along the demand curve. Now movement along the demand curve have two parts: extension in demand and contraction in demand. Okay, extension in demand is caused because of decrease in on price of the commodity. Whenever the price of the commodity decreases, then the demand curve extended. Okay, and contraction of demand, whenever the price of a commodity increases, its quantity demand decreases. This is known as contraction of demand because of increase in price. Okay, student. Now if we can see in our PDF that expansion of demand refers to a rise in the quantity demanded due to a fall in price of a commodity, and other factor remain constant. This is because fall in the price of a commodity. You can see in table 1.4, when price of a commodity decreases from 5 to 3, then quantity demanded of the commodity increases, and in this case all other factors, okay, like taste, preference, okay, expectations, future expectation, population, government policy, all other factor remain constant, only changes in price. Okay, this can be represented with, this can be shown in with the help of diagram. Okay, in this diagram you can see that when price of a commodity fall from 5 to 3, then quantity demanded of a commodity increases from 10 to 20. This is known as expansion of demand. Okay, in this case our demand curve move from point A to point B. Okay, this is our expansion of demand. Always remember that movement along the demand curve is the movement in the same demand curve. There is no shift in the demand curve or the demand curve shifted. There is the movement. Okay, whether the demand curve expand or contraction in the demand curve. So when the price of a commodity decreases, as we can see in the diagram, then quantity demanded increases from 10 to 20. Okay, student, this is known as expansion of demand. Now move to our next point, which is contraction of demand. As I told you that contraction of demand refers to a fall in quantity demanded due to a rise in the price of a commodity, and all other factors remain constant. Okay, this contraction of demand is because of increase in price. Suppose price of a commodity increases, okay, then quantity demanded of that commodity decreases, and all other factors remain constant. Okay, in this case you can see in our table that when price of a commodity is increasing, okay, when price of a commodity is increasing from point 3 to 5, okay, in this case quantity demanded decreases from 30 to 20. Okay, it can easily be seen in this particular table 1.5. And if you see our diagram, then you will find that our price is increasing from 3 to 5, and due to increase in price, quantity demanded decreases from 30 to 20, and our demand curve move towards point B to point A. Okay, this is known as contraction of demand, and the basic reason of contraction of demand is because of increase in price. When price of a commodity increases, then demand of the commodity decreases. Okay, this is known as contraction of demand. In this case, all other factors like income, taste, preference, population, government policy remain constant. Okay, student, next move to our now move to our next topic, which is shift in demand curve. Okay, the basic reason of shift in demand curve is because of change in other factors. In this case, price remain constant. Okay, always keep in mind that whenever we talk about shift is because of changes in other factors, and in this case price remain constant, there is no change in price. Okay, the shift is because of change in income, change in taste and preference, change in population, change in government policy. Then only shift is possible. Shift is shift of demand curve which changes in, divided into two part. First, decrease in demand or backward shift of demand curve. Okay, which is known as decrease in demand. Second is increase in demand, which is also known as forward shift in demand curve. Okay, student. Now move to our next part, which is increase in demand. As I told you that increase in demand is a part of shift in demand, and this increase in demand means when price of a commodity remain when price of a commodity remain constant, like you can see 10 remain constant, only changes in quantity demanded, which is increases from 5 to 10 kg. Okay, and price remain constant in this case. This can be plot with the help of a diagram. In our diagram you can see that, okay, price remain constant at point 10. Okay, and only changes in quantity from 5 to 10. Okay, so you can easily see in the diagram that when because of price remain constant, only quantity demand increases. This is because of other factors like income, like taste and preferences, like population. Okay, like government policies. All these are the variables due to which this demand curve shifted towards right from D point to D1 point. Okay, that's why it is known as increase in demand. Always remember that price remain constant in this case. Okay, now for example, suppose the price of ice cream is rupees 10. Okay, and at that price you buy 5 quantity of the ice cream. Suppose you like the taste of the ice cream and you suggest to your family member that you should go for this ice cream. So at the same price rupees 10, you buy 10 quantity of the ice cream. Okay, like this. So this represents that at the same price your quantity demand increases and your demand curve shift towards right. This is known as increase in demand. Let's move to our next point, which is decrease in demand. Decrease in demand refers to a situation when consumer demand a smaller quantity of the commodity at the same price. Again, the price of the commodity remains same, but due to changes in other factors like income, taste and preference, population, income of related goods, due to these variable, due to changes in these variable, okay, our demand curve decreases. Okay, you can see with the help of a table. Price remain constant and our quantity demanded decreases from 10 to 5 because of price remain constant because of changes in income, taste and preferences. Okay, price of related good, because of these factors our demand curve decreases. Okay, you can see now, you can see in diagram that price remain constant and our quantity demanded fall from 10 to 5. Okay, this is backward, and you can see the diagram that our demand curve shifted towards back, like this is our initial demand curve D, and after that our new demand curve is D1. So our demand curve shifted towards backward. Okay, this is known as decrease in demand. Okay, student, now let's move to our next point, which is causes behind shift in demand curve. Now, what are the basic causes behind the shift in demand curve? As I told you that shift in demand curve is possible because of changes in other factor. So all the other factor are the causes of shift in demand curve, like change in income. When income of a consumer changes, its demand curve may be increase or decrease. Suppose the income changes, he will demand more at the same price. Okay, suppose the income decreases, then he will demand less on the same price. Okay, Now the next point is change in price of related good. As we all know that related good are divided into two part. One is substitute good and another one is complementary good. So change in price of these related good also affect our demand curve. Okay, for example, if the price of coffee, okay, if the price of coffee increases in the market, okay, price of coffee increase in the market, then demand of tea in also increase in the market. As you can see that because of increase in price of coffee, our demand increases in the market, although the price of demand is same. Okay, the price of tea is same. Okay, for again we can see, suppose this is coffee and this is tea. Now price of coffee increases. Due to this price of increase in price of the coffee, people switch towards tea. People switch towards tea. Now the demand of tea increases, and again the price is constant, which is before. So you can easily see that in the case of tea, price is constant, the demand, our demand increases. So this represents our situation of increase in demand. Okay student, now move to our next point, which is change in taste. Okay, as I told you that because of change in taste, like you like ice cream, okay, and you suggest that ice cream to your friends, to your family members. So due to the increase in taste or due to the change in taste, your quantity demanded increases at the same price. Okay, now next, change in population. Suppose the population increases in a particular area, so the demand of the commodity increases at the same price. And suppose population decreases in that particular area, then demand of the product decreases at the same price. Okay student, so all these are the other variables which affect our demand curve. Okay, due to changes in these factors, our demand curve shifted rightward or backward, which is known as increase in demand or decrease in demand. Okay student, and movement is possible only because of change in price. Okay, when price increases, then our demand curve contract, which is known as contraction of demand. And when price decreases, then our demand curve extend, which is known as extension of demand in case of movement. Okay student, the both the concept now the both the concept are clear. Okay, now let's move to our next point, which is distinction between extension of demand and increase in demand. Now what are the difference between extension of demand and increase in demand? As we studied earlier, that we studied recently. Now the first of all, the meaning. Okay, as we all know that extension of demand is a part of movement along the demand curve, and this is possible only because of change in price. Okay, only because of fall in price. When price of a commodity fall, then only extension is possible. Okay, now in the case of increase in demand, as we all know that in the case of increase in demand, price remain constant. Because of other factor, increase in demand is possible. Okay, now let's move to our next point, which is demand curve. Okay, in the case of extension of demand curve, our due to the changes in price upward or downward, okay, due to changes in price increase or decrease, our demand curve move from point A to point B or from B to point A. Okay, this is the movement. Okay, now if we talk about increase in demand, okay, this is the extension of demand curve extension in the case of movement. Now if we talk about increase in demand, you can see in the case of increase in demand, price remain constant. Only because of changes in other factor, our demand curve shifted towards right, which you can see in the diagram from DD to point D1. Okay, our demand curve shifted from D point to D1. It simply represents that price remain constant. Only because of other factor, our demand increases. So this is the difference between extension of demand and increase in demand. Okay student, now next is example. With the help of example, we can see that in the case of extension of demand, when price decreases, then quantity demanded increases from 100 to 150. Okay, and in the case of increase in demand, our price remain constant. You can see that our price remain constant. Because of other factor, our demand increases, okay, from 100 to 150. This is because of fall in the price of complementary good, increase in the number of consumer, increase in the consumer income. There are so many factors, okay, due to which increase in demand can be happen. Okay, now next move to our next point, which is distinction between contraction of demand and decrease in demand. Okay, now what is the difference between contraction of demand and decrease in demand? First of all, the meaning. As we all know that contraction of demand is a part of movement along the demand curve. So contraction is possible just because of increase in price. Okay, and if you talk about decrease, we all know that decrease in demand is a part of shift in demand curve. In this case, price remain constant, and because of changes in other variable like income, taste and preferences, like population, like government policy, because of all these variables, our demand curve decreases. This is the first point. Now if you talk about the second point, in the second point we have demand curve with the help of diagram. With the help of diagram we can see that the upward movement along the same demand curve from B to point A. Okay, this is known as contraction of demand. And in case of shift in demand, we can see that when our demand curve move towards from D to point D1 in the diagram from backward, okay, due to because of other factors, price remain constant. This is known as leftward shift in demand curve or decrease in demand. Okay, student. Now next is our example. We can see with the help of example, when price increases, 10 to 12, then quantity demanded, then quantity demanded decreases from 100 to 180. Same in the case of shift in demand, when price remain constant at 10, quantity demanded decreases from 100 to 80 because of other factors. Okay, student. Now the basic cause behind the contraction of demand and the decrease in demand. First, the causes of a rise in price of the commodity only. As we all know, the contraction is just because of rise in price. When price increases, this is the basic reason of contraction of demand. And in case of decrease in demand, except price remain constant. Except price, all other factors, all other variables, changes in all other variables is the basic reason for decrease in demand, like fall in the consumer's income, fall in price of substitute goods, rise in price of complementary good, decrease in the number of consumers. So this is the basic reason for decrease in demand of a commodity. Okay, student. Now our chapter theory of demand is finished. Okay, now we move towards our assignment, which I send you with the help of message, or with the help of message, text message, or with the help of email. Okay, student. So that's it for today class. We will meet in our next class, which is about elasticity of demand, which is one of the most important point. Okay, which is the part of this particular chapter, elementary theory of demand. Okay, student.